Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to my channel, Seb here, and today I want to talk about Peter Singer, the so-called godfather of the animal rights movement. Or is he? Well, before we get into that, I do want to quickly ask you to please subscribe and hit the notification button to stay up to date with everything that I'm doing. Also check me out on other social media platforms if you wish me to follow me there as well. Today's subject is going to be Peter Singer and his recent post on Instagram talking about what he actually identifies as. Now I saw about this after Catherine Klein made a video about it, so quick shout out to her for that. And I really cannot imagine how low this person has gone when it comes to animal rights. I don't mean this in a derogatory way, I just really believe he has extremely dangerous ideas that he puts out there. As someone who has unfortunately gotten the name or the nickname of the godfather of the current animal rights movement. So for those of you who don't know who Peter Singer is, just a quick introduction. He's an Australian moral philosopher who has written the book Animal Liberation that made the idea of animal liberation or speciesism as famous as it is today, apparently. Unfortunately, what a lot of people don't know is that Peter Singer is not even a plant-based person. Like, his diet is not what we call a vegan diet. But obviously veganism is a moral philosophy, a moral stance against speciesism, which a lot of people think he came up with, but obviously he didn't. Veganism as a moral stance against the exploitation and harm caused on other animals has been something that has existed for more than 1,000 years. And if you want to look into that, please check out this video on Abu Ala al-Ma'arri, the oldest documented vegan who we know of. It is really sad that someone who's not even a dietary vegan like Peter Singer is seen as the face of this movement when we have people who have talked about this more than 1,000 years ago. So Peter Singer recently made this post on Instagram where he said, "I call myself a flexible vegan. I'm predominantly vegan, but I don't treat veganism like a religion. I judge actions by their consequences, and the consequences that matter are the benefit or harm we cause to sentient beings." From the introduction of my new book, Why Vegan? New York, 2020. Why do you call your book Why Vegan? You're not even vegan. How can you convince someone of going vegan if you're not vegan? Now, Peter Singer takes a stance of utilitarianism, which I personally have a lot of problems with because utilitarianism doesn't take into consideration actual morality or ethics or even individual rights. Utilitarianism is basically you maximize utility. So you maximize the goodness or the happiness of as many people as possible with a certain action. Which means that if most of the people in the world believe doing something extremely unethical makes them very happy, then utilitarianism completely respects that because it maximizes utility. You can all imagine where I'm going with this. Utilitarianism is, in my opinion, a very, very dangerous philosophy when it comes to things like this. Back to Peter Singer. I call myself a flexible vegan. Now, when it comes to veganism, we're talking about the life and death or freedom or lack of freedom of other animals. How do you call yourself a flexible vegan? Can you imagine if we just replace the word vegan with something else? Another justice-based issue that a lot of people take strong stances in. For example, let's take racism. And let's reread this post by replacing the word vegan with anti-racist. When I replace the word veganism with anti-racism, I want you to all know that I'm not comparing the experiences of individuals with other individuals. I'm literally talking about a hypothetical situation where we replace this word with another word just to see how ridiculous it sounds, as both words are representative of justice-based movement. I call myself a flexible anti-racist. I'm predominantly anti-racist, but I don't treat anti-racism like a religion. I judge actions by their consequences, and the consequences that matter are the benefit or harm we cause to sentient beings. Do you realize how ridiculous it sounds? You're either against racism or with racism. You're either against discrimination of other animals or with the discrimination of other animals. If you are flexible, it means you don't acknowledge their rights, their moral rights, their individuality, their personhood, and you're just not a vegan. That being said, why would someone make a book called Why Vegan when they don't really even understand veganism? Yes, you've written a book that has become very famous and you had some really good points in it. Maybe you should stand by that to begin with. I mean, I hope I'm really not the only one who finds this ridiculous that someone with his influence, if we can actually give him one, would go ahead and make such a harmful statement. What does that even mean? Now, I found another screenshot that Catherine had shared in her video. This was said in 2006, so maybe since 2006 he has changed his stance, but I'm gonna read it anyway. To avoid inflicting suffering on animals, not to mention the environmental costs of intensive animal production, we need to cut down drastically on the animal products we consume. But does that mean a vegan world? That's one solution, but not necessarily the only one. If it is infliction of suffering that we are concerned about, rather than killing, then I can also imagine a world in which people mostly eat plant-based foods, but occasionally treat themselves to the luxury of free-range eggs, or possibly even meat from animals who live good lives under conditions natural for their species, and are then humanely killed on the farm. Peter Singer is using free-range eggs argument, luxury of eating dead animal parts, and the also famous good living conditions and humanely killed argument that non-vegans bring all the time. Of course, this man has nothing to do with animal rights, and maybe this is a very strong statement that I'm making, but prove me wrong. If you actually believe in animal rights, what do you even mean? The luxury of eating eggs and meat? The luxury of eating eggs and meat as long as the animals have lived a good life? I mean, why is that even a reason to kill someone? If someone's living a good life, that's another reason not to kill them. Imagine just walking up to a random boy, playing in a field, having a really good life, and you're like, hey little boy, having a good life? I'm gonna stab you in the neck and use your body parts as food because, hey, you've lived a good life and this is very luxurious. Because the moral rights regarding your own individuality and your freedom are not as important as the luxurious meal that I might have by killing you. And I know some people might say, are you saying other animals and a little boy have the same value? I'm obviously not saying that. That's a whole other discussion by itself. What I'm saying is, what is it that is true of this boy that makes it wrong to do that if true of other animals would also make it wrong to do that? Some people might say that other animals are not the same because they do not understand consent and they're not as conscious or smart as us. Well, there we can bring the argument from Marginal Cases. For those of you who don't know, the argument from Marginal Cases is an argument that attempts to demonstrate that if animals do not have direct moral status, then neither do such human beings as infants, the senile, the severely cognitively disabled, and other such marginal cases of humanity. So in other words, if the reason why you think it's okay to do this to other animals is because they're not as conscious, as smart, etc., then would you treat humans who are in the same state the same way? So let's say a newborn baby who's not as conscious or as smart, etc., etc. Why does Peter Singer think it's completely okay to do this? And why does he even use humane slaughter? I mean, we are in a place at the moment where when people bring up the whole humane slaughter thing, we actually start laughing. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you're still stuck on that? You think there's a compassionate way of killing someone? The only way that you can actually label something as compassionate when it involves taking the life of someone is where it's in their benefit, all right? If your dog is suffering, putting him down may be the most compassionate thing, but even then, you don't go to the slaughterhouse to do that. You go to the vet because you know very well that there is nothing humane that happens in a slaughterhouse. I'm not gonna make this video any longer. I hope you enjoy it. I knew, of course, that he's not a dietary vegan, but for him to go as far as calling himself a flexible vegan is just something that I have literally no respect of. If somebody wants to talk about this or argue against my points, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below or even send me a direct message. Everyone who has done this before knows that I'm always open to having open and constructive discussions. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support my work, check out my website sebalex.org or ethicsoverhabits.com for vegan, organic and fair trade merchandise. Don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.